Welcome back to PodX. Our guest for today is Ashok Ramachandra. Ashok sir is the CEO of Schindler India, and I'm really excited to have him because we've been planning this podcast for months and we're finally here doing it. He is someone who inspires me a lot. I've heard his story. I actually came across him when he was a guest at Ranveer Alabadia's podcast. And since then, I've been following his content. He puts up really great content on Instagram. His YouTube is really amazing. And I think if anyone wants corporate knowledge, everyone should follow Ashok sir. And Ashok sir, thank you so much for being a part. And yeah, how do you feel being here, sir?
Thank you, Ayush. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really like your persistence. You were not giving up in spite of me trying to, busy with so many things. But I like the patience. I like your persistence. And yeah, well done for doing things apart from your normal studies and stuff.
Thank you, sir. So, but speaking of persistence, don't you think it played a huge role in your life also? Because when you started out, when you were in Australia, you were not at such a high level job, and you were at Schindler at you were not so ranked up as high. And then you went to the airport to meet the higher authorities and start trying to communicate, build network, and all. So, what was the role of persistence in your life, sir?
Persistence is always probably the single most important reason why success can come, right? Even for normal people. you know and a lot of people message me today saying that I'm 24, I'm aimless, I'm failing so much. And I always say that you never fail, you're just trying different things, and some things go as per what you expected, and some things don't go as per you expected. So it is not failure. There is, what is failure? Failure is a, say, what is failure for you could be a pass for me. Maybe in your head, like my sister, she used to think anything less than 95 marks is a fail. And I used to be happy if I get 80. So, and so to beat that, the only way you can do it is by trying again and again. So persistence is where you fail fast and you keep trying again. Like when I said no, I told you, for example, oh, let's catch up later, you tried again. Then I said, oh, but I'm busy now, let's catch up later, you tried again. So a lot of people will give up. अरे इसको कितने बार मैसेज करेंगे तो रिप्लाई नहीं करता है, तो they leave it. That is where I think persistence is so important. And for me, persistence played a role all through my life, right from my childhood to having all those failures in school, and then still trying to see whether I can complete a professional degree. Even in my call center, in fact, I have not shared anywhere. In fact, this is the first time I'll be sharing. When I went for my call center interview, also I failed.
Wow.
उतना तो मिलना चाहिए था. In fact, I had the group discussion, and they have hundreds of people applying. Call center jobs, hundreds of people applying. They had group discussion. 10 people were sitting and having a group discussion. After the group discussion was over, they said, you're selected. All of you can go home. And I was one of those people who was asked to go home. And I was like, why did I not even get through a group discussion? Because group discussion is about communication skills. So somebody felt I was not even good at communication. And then I came back. I came back to the same interview 3 months later, and I got selected. So I was persistent. So I would encourage everyone, right? Never think of anything as failure. It is just that it hasn't gone as per your plan. That's all.
But sir, for persistence, what do you think goes in one's mind? Because for me, what happens is the reason why I'm persistent is what happens in my mind is, okay, I'll try once more, I'll try once more, I'll try once more, and then I will achieve it. And I see at the bright side, I see the golden gates opening in front of me, these new opportunities coming into place. And I don't see the negative part of it that, oh, I have to try again and again. And a lot of my podcasts, actually, this isn't the first podcast. Some of my podcasts also I've had to wait for 6 to 8 months before getting those podcasts. And like some people even said this. So one of my podcasts, I reached out to a person in 2019 in September, and we did the podcast in end of May 2020. So that was almost a good 8 or 9 months. And for me, I was still looking at the same thing, that those golden gates opening up, looking at these new opportunities and all that stuff. So what does happen? What happens in your mind, sir?
In my mind, I'm just getting closer to winning. Every time I fail, I feel that, okay, chalo, I'm just going to be winning now. I think, luckily, I was very mature even when I was younger. I never saw any of these failures as heartbreaking moments and stuff. I didn't even think of them as failures. I just thought of it as which are this didn't go as per what I wanted. So what goes in my head is what can I learn and what can I do better to make the next attempt even more achieving closer to a. I would not want to call it success. I want to call it as per my expectation.
But do you think there was some event in your life that made that happen? Because, okay, this is the first time I'm ever revealing this ever online. A lot of my friends and everyone around me knows it, but I repeated KG2. So KG2 is a class which no one really thinks you can repeat. But lucky enough, I was 1 year early for my age. So now I'm with my proper age batch. But what happened was in KG2, the principal told my parents that Ayush's mind is not fully developed yet. He can't focus on one thing and etc. etc. So we suggest that Ayush repeats KG2. And that is what happened to me. And somewhere when I look back in life, I think when I saw that at a very young age, I wasn't obviously I was immature at that time, so I didn't see it as a failure or as a bad thing. And now when I look back at it, it's a really good thing. And I think that has made me not really fear of failing and trying again. I think that I'm not sure if it's exactly that event, but I feel that is one event that has played a role in my life.
I don't think I had any one event or anything like that. It was a series of failures in my life that just made me. I think for me, the most important thing was how do I make my family around me proud of me because they never questioned me more. Usually, what happens is parents are more paranoid, right? Parents are always worried, complaining, scolding, being abusive with kids and stuff. But my parents were exact opposite. They were always like, "It's okay, no problem. I'm sure you will do well." And I was feeling very bad. I'm like, every time I'm failing, they're going to be upset. And they were upset within themselves. They just didn't show it to me. So that was probably the only motivation.
So for your leadership, what would be your advice to anyone who is starting at the bottom to who wants to reach the top as you did? Especially for you, you've done it at such a short span of time. The way you've gone up the corporate ladder in such a short span of time, it's like it seems impossible to so many of us.
So what is your question? What are the leadership tips, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, you can't wake up in the morning and say that I'm going to be a leader. To be a leader, if you think about the people who you admire or who we admire normally, who are leaders, whether it is President Obama, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi, whether it is Nelson Mandela, and for many people today, it could be Narendra Modi. For many people, it could be Jawaharlal Nehru. For many people, it could be Rajiv Gandhi. We often think of, first of all, the first impression is what attracts us to them, right? The first impression is the way they look, the way they walk, the way they talk, which is what I call as executive presence. So very, very important for people to hone their executive presence, which is like, when you see a book cover, you want to read it. That's what is an executive presence. So executive presence is when you're presenting yourself really eloquently, very, very well dressed. You've often seen that, right? In fact, my sales team always tells me that, sir, हम सूट बूट सब पहन के अगर हम बिल्डिंग में जाते हैं तो सिक्योरिटी कुछ पूछता ही नहीं. It's a very common thing in India, especially. So if you're well dressed and if you walk anywhere, nobody says anything to you. You can walk into a 5-star hotel if you're very well dressed and nobody will ask you any question. You can even go and use their swimming pools, restrooms, aram se, I'm telling you, in 5-star hotels, because they just think you're a guest. So they won't be, they will be nice to you. That's the first thing, executive presence. The second thing is, if you're a leader, you should have an ability to inspire people, not to tell people what to do. So through your actions and words and stuff, you should be able to convince people to follow you, not force them to listen to you. So second one would be ability to influence and convince people. Today, there are many examples. Why are politicians considered very good leaders? Because they can give a bhashan and inspire people. The famous speeches that we have heard in the world as well. I have a dream speech in US many, many years ago we've heard. So these are all ways of influencing people, and that is very important. You should be somebody who can convince people and influence people. Third one is you should be genuinely interested in people. Like I should have a genuine intent to help Ayush have a podcast, because I know that it will make his something in his life. He will learn something, or he may get some benefit out of it. So I really should be deep down. I should have a heart of helping people. Otherwise, you can't be a leader. You can't be a leader who's just about making money. Money should be an outcome of everything. Fourth one will be being very down to earth, humble, and willingness to learn. So you should also be keen to learn from others. I think these are critical 4 points, I would say.
I think these are something which I have been trying to embed in my life, except the dressing up well part, because I don't know, I don't like really, getting ready and going out anywhere and all. So the thing with me is if I'm going out, I'll just be like jeans, t-shirt, pen liya, and let's go out. Fine. That thing I have to work on, I think.
But
And
that
the
is also plays, right? You can't dress up on a suit if you're going to a nightclub. You'll probably be dressing up in a jeans and t-shirt and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think with my age, maybe with age, I'm hoping that I will get that
Correct.
maturity. Correct. And the thing about learning, I think, like you said, learning is very important. Another point which I wanted to add was, I don't know if it falls under this or not, which is networking, which you've spoken about earlier a lot, which is building a strong network of connections, getting to know them and building relations. So how do you think that has impacted you, and how do you build a network firstly?
Network, I always say that first of all, if you want to build network, you should have substance. You can't have empty vessels making a lot of noise. So you have to be good at your craft. You have to be good at something. Only then you can, network and talk to people. And and of course, then it's important that you go network, right? When you're talking about networking, it's nothing but connecting with people and getting to know them and offering something to them as well. Today, a lot of people message me and they say, I need a job or I need to network. I'm like, what am I going to get back from this? And there's nothing wrong in thinking like that. You can't just expect that everything should be one way, right? It should be two-way. So when you're networking, you should be able to offer something. And it's very important. In today's world, you can't just expect that everything will fall on your plate. It is a lot about who you know and how well you know them as well. You can get a lot of opportunities in life.
Yeah, I use this. So actually, the reason why I started this podcast was an excuse to get to know people who inspire me. So a lot of times what happens is my friends come to me and say, oh, your subscribers aren't increasing so much, or your followers aren't increasing so much. And I just tell them that it does matter to me, but it doesn't matter to me at such a large extent, because at the end of the day, I'm still getting to meet the people who inspire me. In fact, very recently, sir, a very big businessman, he stays very low key on the internet. So he doesn't really show up on the internet and all that stuff. He has you won't find any videos of him. He keeps his social media handles and all private. And I reached out to him for a podcast. So he said that he didn't want, he's keeping a low profile on the internet and he didn't want to be on my podcast. So he very kindly rejected the offer. And then I asked him if we could do just a Zoom call. And, so I could talk to him in person and learn from him directly, if not a podcast. And he agreed to that. And the reason why I feel that is because I've done more than 30 podcasts till date. So I had something to back up on it. So like you said, substance was there, which is why he agreed. I feel that, okay, this person genuinely wants to learn, and he agreed for the Zoom call. And then we had a Zoom call. So I think that is the reason why I did this, I feel.
No, I think these are important things that current generation is learning a lot and using. And I like the fact that you touched upon this followers and stuff. Please don't get into the trap of, counting your followers every day and likes and everything. Because today I am watching that, a lot of content that is going viral is, I don't know how to call it, but I have to call it, crap content. It's junk. Complete junk content is going viral because people want to sit back and just get entertained. They don't want to learn. They want to get rich and famous without having any hard work. I get messages from people saying, I want to do a startup. I don't have any ideas. I don't have any knowledge. Please tell me, what should I start up? How should I start up? And how can I make it successful? I'm like, my dear friend, if ये सब मालूम है तो मैं खुद करूँगा ना, मैं आपको क्यों बोलूँगा? But this is where I see a lot of the generation now is expecting everything as a fast food. And then, they are very paranoid about followers and counts, and then they get depressed. And then, Ayush is doing podcast. I'm not doing anything. Fear of FOMO. All these things starts coming. Everybody, to each to their own. let everyone run their own race in the way they think that it's best for them.
But sir, when you put out content, do you look at legacy? Because a lot of this content will be there on the internet forever. So do you think of this that 20, 30, 40 years later, my great grandchildren or my grandchildren will be looking at this content, and that's how you put out the content?
No, I can't think all that, I put out content that I genuinely want people to learn. I put out content that I feel will help people to become work ready. So the reason why I started putting content is I realized that a lot of students, they are not ready for corporate life. They have a lot of gaps in soft skills. So I'm just sharing whatever I'm seeing as a problem in the market. When I interview people, candidates, I see a lot of issues. So I'm just putting that as content.
Just a question. This is slightly off track. Yeah, even after being CEO, do you still like interview people for jobs? Like, what level do you interview people at?
Oh, you'll be very surprised. I'm not your stereotypical CEO at all. I, of course, have to interview for my immediate reports, but I'll give you an example. Last week on Thursday, I had lunch with a person. I connected on LinkedIn. This person is a salesperson in a company. I just, that person just caught my attention because he had received multiple awards from his company for top performance. And he was a young talent. He was a 26-year-old boy. And I just was curious to meet him. So I just met him. I invited him for lunch. मैंने घर से खाना लेके आया उसके लिए भी, because I eat mostly home food. And we both sat in my office, in my table, and we had lunch. And he was quite shocked. He was like, why is the CEO of the company having lunch with me? And the whole purpose was, can I fit him somewhere in the organization? So I will be interviewing always. I'm always interviewing.
I think, yes, that is one thing which I've noticed is also you communicate and open up very freely to a lot of people. Like you told me earlier, also you reply to DMs of people who DM you mostly when you find it's like important. Even the first time when I DM'd you, you replied to me. I was actually very surprised because I wasn't expecting an answer, to be honest with you. I was actually procrastinating. I think I sent you the DM in April, but I was supposed to send it to you in March. But then in my mind, it was like, Ashok sir won't reply to me. So what's the use of DMing him anyways? But then I sent it in April anyways.
No, I always see the minimum respect. Minimum respect you can give to people is a reply. Of course, I don't like people harassing me. When I say no, they don't take no for an answer. And they just, there it is not even persistence. It's almost like bordering on stalking and stuff, which is irritating because you can't say yes to everyone and you have to, it's not like I don't have time. I always tell people, don't lie. We all have time for what we want to prioritize. And my priority may not be doing many of these things at this point of time. I want to make my own, I have my own things to do as well, which I need to give time and priority for.
So, sir, I wanted to come to this topic, which I've been really excited for. I've only spoken to one person on this podcast on this topic, and I think you're the next fit for it. It's about fatherhood. How did it change your life completely? In what way did it change it?
I think any amount of change cannot describe the change fatherhood can do to you. You can never be prepared for a fatherhood. You can't expect anything what will happen because every fatherhood experience is different. It's completely different. I always say that, whenever I come back home, that's when I realize I'm just a normal person. And my family makes sure to make me feel like a normal person, not like a CEO. So I'm a monkey in the house, I'm a horse, I'm a elephant if it's necessary, whatever, I have to play all the roles to entertain my kids. Fatherhood brings a lot of accountability. I think it makes you totally selfless. When you know that there is a little living creature dependent on you for everything, right from washing the potty to changing the nappies, putting their clothes, and they will come and tell you all the uncomfortable things, right? Like, oh, daddy, I farted, oh, it's itching in my private parts. Like, what I mean? It is such a vulnerable relationship and such a beautiful relationship. I think you give up everything. But let me tell you one thing that I started respecting my mother more after I became a parent. Of course, my father as well, but more the mother because I see how the wives and mothers are more selfless than the fathers. I think father would also still leave the kids and go if there is a party, but the mothers will not go. I'm pretty sure if you go and ask your mom, she will say the same to you as well. We end up respecting mothers more when you become a parent because you see the kind of sacrifices a mother makes, a father never makes. I think it's just genetically we are built like that, like even during my fatherhood and stuff. If there is an event to go, if there is a party to go, if I have to catch up with friends, I would still do it, even when my son was 1 year old, 6 months old. But a mother would never do that. She would not. I mean, my mothers can be awake all night. Fathers will not be awake all night. Fathers will still sleep. I'm talking about general fathers. I'm sure there must be some exceptional fathers who can even do that. I was not able to do that. I used to still sleep a little bit early days when my kids were not sleeping and all that. So, but I think it changes. It's the most life changing event. Nothing. Not even marriage is life changing. Kids are life changing.
So, but is there something that parents can learn from their kids, or is there something that you have learned from your kids?
Yeah, we all learn vulnerability, honesty. We learn being agile. Of course, every generation kids are very, very smart. Today, my kids are so much more smarter than probably you. And you're probably so much more smarter than me. That is how it is, right? So you really learn, you wonder where do they pick up all these things from, right? So their agility to pick up things is extremely good. And I like the fact that they are very honest. They don't lie. So we learn from them how to not lie.
Yeah, and even like you said, the ability for them to learn is faster. I was actually reading about this. If people want to learn a language, it is much more easier to learn more languages before the age of 18, because once you reach the 17, 18, your ability to learn starts going down through the graph if you look at it.
Correct.
Versus when you're from the age of 6 to 18, between those 12 years, it's the prime time to learn anything new.
Correct. Absolutely.
So
that is why Indian parents. Sorry, I was just saying that's why Indian parents force kids to learn so many things.
Yeah, I was going to ask that only. So what do you think that all these impacts have? Is it because some people complain a lot, but do you think it has a positive impact when parents really try to teach their kids new things and different things?
It's a good question. I mean, even my wife and me, we talk about this a lot these days. I think there should be a balance. You can't overdo it, and there is a good reason to force as well. I think, my parents forced me a lot to wake up early, and today it's a boon. I used to hate them for it at that time, but today I'm very, very proud of them that they made me wake up early every day. So there are certain good behaviors, good habits you can force, but you don't have to force, like, for example, you don't have to learn piano and swimming and karate and football and music. You know what I mean? Like, that is not necessary. Maybe let them explore a few things, and whichever they are liking and good at, they continue.
So what would be your advice for someone who is into content creation, starting out completely new?
I think you should not be doing content which is not in your league. Like, for example, if you start putting content about how to be happy in life and what are the life lessons and all that, it sounds very odd because you're not like a 50-year-old guy or a 40-year-old guy or 30-year-old guy. So you should make content relevant to your age group and what would be a little bit more than, maybe you can talk about, like, I do podcasts for networking and things like that. So my advice is choose a topic which is relatable and connectable to you and to the age group. Whilst, see, end of the day, it depends on why you want to make content. If you want to make content to become rich and famous and popular, then you should do things that you may not like. I will tell you, the reel that I posted wearing my gym clothes, especially a stringer, which is like more of a deeper gym clothes, that got the maximum views than the normal clothes that I wear and do. So it's like, and Ankur Warikoo, right? Ankur did a video dance with his sister on Raksha Bandhan that had more views than any other good content he put out. That's a very sorry state of affairs, right? So that's why I was saying, whilst I want you to advise that put out good content, but it really depends. If you want to make rich and famous things, then you can do dancing, you can do a lot of stupid stuff for me, but public likes it. But to close the loop, I would say do it in your niche, do it in an age group. Try and practice a lot, rehearse a lot, put a lot of effort in scripting, put a lot of effort in making sure the quality of the video, the camera, the setting, all that is good. It all matters, and editing, things like that, right? So I would say that would be a good start.
Yeah, so like you said, putting out content in your niche and age likewise. Actually, my first content which I created was in podcast. So do you know Gary Vee?
Yeah.
So basically, what happened was I randomly started making videos of putting these fluffy motivational videos, and I was doing that actually for 1 month, and then I realized that this doesn't make sense because I haven't done anything to talk about success or fame and all that stuff, and I personally haven't achieved anything. So it is really stupid if I'm giving these advices. And so what I did was I deleted all those previous videos, and that's when I decided to try something new and start doing podcasts. Before that, if I look back now, there are a lot of these. I find it very cringe. Thankfully, I've deleted them before. Now, no, it's not on the internet, so no one can see it. But looking back, I feel very stupid about creating those kind of videos.
You can put content like how do you as a student plan your day, how do you plan your week, how do you learn, how do you treat your parents, how do you get them to convince on things you want to do, like stuff of your age group, right, which people don't do.
But so
How
why
old
do
are
you
you, by the
think?
way? 17, right?
Yeah, I turned 18. I turned 18
Okay.
recently. So why do you think dance videos work so much on Instagram? The reels.
No, entertainment videos works, not just dance. Anything that is entertaining because it's mindlessly watching, right? You go and scroll reels. I realize why people like it, because the other day I wantedly went to reels and started scrolling reels, and they are entertaining. They are mindlessly when you sit on a bed and you mindlessly scroll reels. They're very interesting. You actually get a lot of fun. So it's not knowledge. And sometimes you don't want knowledge, you want just to watch. But like, why do you watch a movie? You don't watch a movie for knowledge. You watch a movie for entertainment. I think a lot of entertainment is what people like. That's why TikTok was so famous. It was entertaining.
But so what do you think
And
is
whether we
going to
like
be
it or not,
Yes, sir, you can
sorry, I
continue,
would
sir.
say whether we like it or not, till today, porn has the maximum viewership because it's entertaining. It is nowhere good for you, but people still watch porn. So what do you say, right? That's a fact of life.
But sir, what do you think will be the next thing? First, initially, there were like these people wanted to laugh. They used to watch these 2 hour movies. Then they started watching these videos of 15, 20, 30 minutes on YouTube. Now it's come down to these reels less than 1 minute. So what do you think will be the next big? No, before that, there was a phase of stand-up comedy. Now it's these reels of short 30 to 1 minute. So what do you think will be the next thing, sir?
I'm not sure. I honestly feel it may go back to the old cycle again, cycle will go back. Long content will probably start eventually coming out, but I think the short will run for a few years. Abhi, I don't think it is even time for it to go off.
So do you think it has still a lot of gas left for it to explode?
Yes. I think
So
even now people are talking about, reels and stuff. Though whether Instagram will survive, that is a different question. Maybe something else will come. Now Clubhouse is coming. There's so many other coming. Avalon scenes. There's so many new ones coming. So pata nahi, maybe 1-2 saal ke baad, like Facebook is now outdated. Do you use Facebook? I mean, I use Facebook, but I find it very boring.
I am not even on Facebook. So actually, I am
Yeah.
on Facebook, but there are these games which I play on my phone, which I used to play. So to save your data, you had to create a Facebook account. So that is the only reason why
Yeah.
I had it back then.
So that is what is happening. Facebook is almost gone, right? So Instagram is there. Instagram also will probably, go in about a year or two, and something else will come. I think
Yeah, I
more
think
of reality will start happening. IR, more of reality game, stuff will start coming. You can 3D, all those things will start coming.
Yeah, I think it's already exploding a lot. In fact, if you look at all these NFTs part, and also if you read about it, people are creating these virtual worlds just to showcase their NFTs. So I don't even know how. I was actually reading about this. There was this person who bought this painting for an NFT for $70 million or something. And he created a world in Minecraft. and he's going to like be placing it over there for people to see. So I wanted to ask you this, since we've come to this topic, what do you think about NFTs, Partha?
I don't know anything. Huh? I was going to ask you. I mean, I've been reading about it. Matlab, not about it. Sorry, I've been reading of it when I scroll. Like Pratik, Digital Pratik, I follow him. He's big into NFT now. Raj Shamani is big into NFT. I don't understand NFT yet. Abhi crypto, to abhi I'm getting to know crypto, and by the time I know crypto, there's already a new one. So I'm done. I'm like, मुझे छोड़ो, मुझे नहीं जानना है अभी. I have to figure out what is NFT. In fact, I was thinking when you said NFT, I should call Pratik and ask him to explain to me a little bit more on this.
Yeah, so I'll just give you like a brief idea, sir. NFTs are like digital assets. So let's say you have some painting or some music or anything. So what happens is when you buy a painting, you will keep it in your house, and everyone knows that Ashok sir owns this beautiful painting of a horse by M.F. Hussain and all that stuff. So everyone knows you own it. Now, in a digital asset, what will happen is normally what people say, they can take a screenshot and save it and all. But when you look at the painting to the world, it will be written over there that this is owned by Ashok sir. So that way, people can take a screenshot and see it and all of that. But over there, it'll still show that it is owned by you. So everyone will know you own it. And I used to actually, even 2 months back, I used to find it very stupid that why would people want to do that? But I don't know why it's picking up a lot of trend suddenly.
Yeah, I know. I still don't get it. I'm not convinced to buy NFT yet. As I said, I'm not going to invest in crypto yet. So maybe that's a good start to do.
So, but do you think crypto will take off?
I'm not going to talk about it because I don't have knowledge on it. I don't want to influence, I don't want people to say, okay, Ashok sir said crypto will grow, so let's go and buy crypto. Financial advice, even if you look at my financial videos, I've only given general knowledge. So I don't want to comment.
Okay, so last question coming to this. Who are people that inspire you and what have you learned from them?
The first inspiration was Jack Welch, who was the CEO of General Electric. He was the one who inspired me to take up leadership. I started reading Jack Welch's books. I got so inspired by leadership and all that. Then it was my first managing director and mentor, Fernando Xavier, who really groomed me and made me today what I am. People-oriented, humble, down-to-earth, all those things. So I learned a lot from him on how to engage with people, how to be connected with the downlines, how to respect anyone, whether they are a CEO or a normal employee. Apart from that, a lot of other mentors. I get inspired by everyone around me. Like today I'm inspired by you. I feel, how smart is this young guy? He's making podcasts and stuff. I think we need to always look around us. Everybody around us is an inspiring person. And we should be inspired by everything that we see around us.
So you spoke about mentors. I said it was the last question, but I wanted to add another question. How can one ask people to be a mentor? Like, how can I approach someone and ask them, could you be my mentor? And what exactly is a mentor-mentee relation?
On this first question, you have to wait for my YouTube video. I'm making a video on this topic. It's the most asked question to me. But what is a mentor-mentee relationship? Also, in fact, I don't know if you saw that reel. I posted a reel on this last week. I have a relationship with my mentor like a father. A mentor-mentee should be like a selfless father-son relationship. But, I get a lot of requests for mentoring. And I told people that I don't want to do free mentoring anymore because nobody values anything free. So I'm like, if there is anything commercially you can do for me, I will mentor. And it is not for me to make money. It is only for you to be serious about it. And some people take offense to it, but I'm like, too bad. You can't expect free because nobody values anything free. So mentor-mentee relationship should be a very open, transparent relationship. It should not be about getting a job. You should not take me as a mentor so that you can get a job in my company. It should be about really helping you to show a mirror to you. A mentor should tell you what you don't like to hear. And that will develop you always. Thank you.
So I don't have exactly mentors as such, according to the definition of what you defined it. But there are some people whom I had guests on my podcast, and I stay in touch with them. And sometimes once I had this crazy startup idea, which was a fintech idea. I'll share it with you after the podcast, actually, sir, if you don't mind. And what happened was I reached out to these people and they gave me the advice, what was wrong in the plan, what was correct in the plan and all that stuff. And then So I keep on staying in touch with them, and sometimes when I have any thoughts or anything, they give me the advice. So I don't know if it's exactly a mentor-mentee
That's
relation,
fine.
but they give me
That's a
advice
good
whenever I
start.
need it.
That's a good start, and you can work on that and develop it, and maybe over the years it becomes like a father-son relationship.
Yes. So what would be your last advice to anyone who is listening or watching this podcast?
I don't want to call it last advice, but one advice I want to tell everyone is to really get this whole habit of I only need to keep winning. Everybody is so paranoid about everything should go the way they want. They need to understand that life, you will have ups and downs, and just chill. You're not going to die. You're still alive and you can conquer anything you want. So stop worrying and stressing out. Just always be happy and chirpy person. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, sir, for being a part. This was really amazing having you, sir.
Thank you, Ayush.